Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
This is awesome! This is awesome! Hello and welcome once again to Cheap Shot Entertainment. I am your host Luke, and we're going to take you through all of the scores and reviews of every single match that came at the pay-per-view known as Payback. It was a week after SummerSlam, and I just assumed that it was going to be, and it probably you should never assume anything, that it was just going to be rehashes of the same matches that happened at SummerSlam. It was not. There was a couple of variations of the same matches, but apart from that, it was a completely different pay-per-view, its own animal, so to speak. It was on the 30th of August 2020, and here in the UK that is the day before Bank Holiday Monday. So it gave me an opportunity to actually watch this one live, and it came from the Almat Center in Orlando, Florida. So WWE have started using proper venues, and they're not in the Performance Center anymore. So I got that wrong. Hands up for SummerSlam, because there was at the Almat Center in Orlando on SummerSlam weekend as well. So the pre-show is the Riot Squad, or the new Riot Squad, the Live Riots, Live to Riot. I don't know what they're actually called. And they pick up the victory over the Iconics, which is really sad because they are the former women's tag team champions, and they're a shell of their former selves at the moment. But this match was very much a throwaway. It's nothing to do with the women that were in the match, but more to do with how much time they got to work with. And it was boring. I didn't enjoy this one. In fact, I had my head in my phone for the finish, so I don't even know how it finished, which is terrible to say, but I just don't know how it finished. All I know is that the Riot Squad, the new Riot Squad, Live to Riot, whatever they're called, won. And I'm going to give this 1 out of 5 cheap shots because it wasn't very good. The match itself was, like I say, the match participants were great, but it just seemed like it was just tacked on with not much else in the way of substance to it. So 1 out of 5 cheap shots, my new cheap shot entertainment rating for wrestling shows. The pyro! We get pyro! Pyro? What's pyro? Well, pyro is the fireworks that used to happen inside a wrestling venue way back when they did have pyro. So I'm going to give that 5 out of 5 cheap shots because, pyro is brilliant. They've still got the Thunderdome thing. They're piping in more crowd noise, which makes it interesting, gives it a different dynamic as well. And like I say, pyro, 5 out of 5 cheap shots. We go on to the US title match. It is Bobby Lashley versus Apollo Crews, and this feud has been going on for quite a while. Apollo Crews has had to have some time off due to an injury and taking the title belt with him. So he's come back. He says, I cannot lose this title. I will not lose this title. This title means more to me than anything else. So Bobby Lashley comes in and pins him. So actually, no, he doesn't even pin him. He puts him in the full Lashley submission, which is the forget it, full Nelson. There we go. So it's not the full Nelson. Ha ha. It's the full Lashley submission, and Apollo Crews taps. This match is actually pretty damn good. The new heel faction, the Hurt Locker or the Hurt Factor or whatever they're called, is pretty damn good. It's Shelton Benjamin, Bobby Lashley, and MVP. I've really enjoyed MVP since he's come back to the company, and they have formed the full Metal Jacket or whatever it's called. I'll just keep calling it by different names until I figure it's something to do with Hurt. I think it's something Hurt Factory or Hurt Business. I think that's what it's called, isn't it? They're in the Hurt Business. That's the one. Not John Hurt, because he's a legendary actor from Nottingham, in fact. And he had the alien xenomorph burst out of his chest. Anyway, back to the wrestling. Bobby Lashley, full Lashley submission. I'm going to give this one 3 out of 5 stars. Decent opening match for the two. And in a break of character, Apollo Crews attacks Bobby Lashley after the match. Where's this going to go? I don't know. Maybe it's a change. Maybe gives him a cheap shot. Yes, I said it. And could even join the faction. Who knows? Sheamus versus Big E. Next, Big E is finally getting his singles push with Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston both on the injury list. Sheamus puts up a good fight here, beats up Big E. Big E powers through, hits the big ending on the big man Sheamus and picks up the victory. I really enjoyed this match. Really, really good match. These two just beat and battered each other. I love it. It's everything that a big man match should be. Just lots of heavy striking and just beating each other to a pulp. And that's exactly what they did, including Big E's spear from the inside of the ring to the outside of the ring to the floor, which looked nasty, but it always does. And I'm going to give this 4 cheap shots out of 5 because I really enjoyed the match, and the match was actually pretty darn good. So far the Payback train is rolling on, because it does get better from here. Two guys I really actually quite like, King Corbin versus Matt Riddle in this next match. Matt Riddle would pick up the victory with the floating bro, which is sort of like a twisting moonsault type thing where he lands in a senton position from the top rope, and that put King Corbin away. Matt Riddle always been impressive, always been my bro, and I'm a fan of King Corbin. I'm a fan of Baron Corbin, and I always have been and I always will be. I can see why people find him annoying, but that just means to me that he's doing his job properly. And both of these guys are absolutely tip-top, the future of the company. So why not put them in a decent position on the card and give Matt Riddle the victory? After the finish, Matt Riddle's having an interview in the back. King Corbin attacks him in the back, and I'm liking some of this sort of edgy wrestling, these edgy storytelling that WWE are doing at the moment. Lots of backstage assaults and things like that, which I really, really enjoy. Unfortunately, Matt Riddle is under investigation for rape at the time of doing this video, so you can see why Baron Corbin apparently doesn't actually like the guy, in not just in kayfabe but outside of the ring as well. And you can see why he's not everybody's cup of tea. But I really like Matt Riddle, and I'm going to give this match a 3 out of 5 cheap shots rating for this one. The women's tag team match next. We were predicting this last week with Mike. It is the Boss Hug Connection versus Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. Two people that have just been chucked together. They both say they don't like each other, but yet they're in a tag team championship match together. What happened to the Iconics being in this match, or even the Riot Squad? There's plenty of women's tag teams out there that could go for the titles, but you know what? I like Baszler. I did love Jax when she was back in NXT. I do feel for her. Lots of things going wrong for her at the moment. Every time she steps through the ropes onto the hallowed canvas, there is something that goes wrong, and she's been labelled as a unsafe worker. The fact of the matter is, she is not. She's just lacking a bit of confidence at the moment, and we've got to give her that confidence. So let's do it. Let's do it with a title change, and that's exactly what happened here. And Baszler showing why she dominated the Elimination Chamber back in February with basically what would be a double submission on the tag team champs. Former, Raw Women's Champion Sasha Banks as well. Shayna Baszler took both of them out. She got let me figure this one out. She got Bayley in an Indian Deathlock, like a leg lock thing. She got Sasha Banks in the Karabuda clutch. She leant back with Sasha Banks and used Bayley's arm no, she got Bayley in the clutch rather, and Sasha Banks in the Indian Deathlock. I'm just reading my notes here and trying to make use of them. And uses Sasha Banks' arm to heighten the move, which means that Bayley taps out and Sasha Banks, the Boss Hug connection. Bayley and Sasha Banks lose the tag team championships just 1 week after Bayley successfully defended her SmackDown championship, but Sasha Banks lost the Raw Championship to Asuka, who is sadly missing from here. But I do get the feeling that this pay-per-view was mostly SmackDown talent, so maybe they're moving on to the two pay-per-view thing again. I don't know, but it was SmackDown talent mainly. Really good match actually, this one. I really enjoyed this one, and the finish definitely got it for me. I was really chuffed with the finish, and it was just a really cool looking move. So that got it an extra 0.5 on the cheap shot meter, and I'm going to give this match 3.5 cheap shots out of 5 just because of that last bit. And also, all four of these ladies, when they've got chemistry, it does actually really help. So we move on. Keith Lee in his first pay-per-view match against Randy Orton. That's why I said mostly SmackDown talent here, but Keith Lee and Randy Orton are featured on Raw. Keith Lee picks up his first win on the main roster. Incidentally, his music has changed, and I asked the question. I'm asking this question of the Cheap Shot Nation: how am I supposed to bask in Keith Lee's glory if his music doesn't constantly tell me to do so? They've changed his music, they've changed his attire, they've given him a t-shirt because, Vince McMahon says, "You're a big guy, pal, and I really like that, but you need to cover up because you don't have abs. You don't have abs like Vincent Kennedy McMahon. I'm going to put you in shorts, pal. Shorts. Because you don't have abs like Vincent Kennedy McMahon." That's as much McMahonism as I can do for now. So let's move on. So the finish comes when Randy Orton tries to hit the RKO after a very hard-hitting match. They fought outside, they fought inside. Randy Orton dropping Keith Lee onto the table. I am the table, because the table did not break until Keith Lee did the same thing, back suplex onto the table, and the table went through. Keith Lee would win the match by reversing an RKO into a Spirit Bomb, showing how strong he actually is. Randy Orton taking the clean loss here, Keith Lee picking up the victory, making him a hot commodity over on Raw. I'm going to give this one 3 cheap shots out of 5, and we're going to move on to the second tag match of the evening. It is Rey and Dominic Mysterio versus Rollins and the Disciple Murphy. Again, there was a lot of focus on Rey on this one. Rey was getting beaten up. Dominic, if he'd shown some of this last week, you can tell that he was keeping it under wraps for this pay-per-view, he was really impressive in this one. really impressive, picking up the victory over Buddy Murphy. In fact, it was a 619 frog splash combination, a little bit of one dad and a little bit of the other, but unfortunately there was no contract hanging above the ring where you had to climb a ladder for the custody of a young Dominic. Thank goodness for that. Anyway, that was a really good ladder match, by the way, way back when. It was actually pretty damn good. The storyline was dangerous, but the ladder match, proper good. Anyway, unfortunately, it seems like Rey Mysterio has now got an injury, but Dominic has well and truly arrived on the main roster. Like I say, he picks up the victory over Buddy Murphy and Seth Rollins, with Buddy Murphy taking the pin. I really enjoyed this match, really enjoyed this match. I'm going to give it 4 cheap shots out of 5. And the pay-per-view rolls on. Really good pay-per-view this. I was very surprised by how good this pay-per-view actually was. Universal Championship match is next, with the new Universal Champion, The Fiend, going against Braun Strowman and Roman Reigns. Of course, Roman Reigns returned last week at SummerSlam, attacking both The Fiend and Braun Strowman after The Fiend had picked up the victory over the former Universal Champion. As yet, the contract has not been signed by Roman Reigns, so we have a one-on-one match to begin, and The Fiend attacks Braun Strowman straight off the bat. Braun Strowman is beating up The Fiend laughs. They battle towards the back of the arena. They go through some boxing off the side of the stage. They continue to beat on each other all the way back down to the ring, and just as Bray Wyatt superplexes Braun Strowman onto the ring and breaks the ring completely, you get the feeling this is being done way too much at this point in time. It was shocking first time it happened with Brock Lesnar and the Big Show. It's happened several more times since, but the most comical part of this particular breaking of the ring was Charles Robinson falling out of the ring when he was nowhere near the ropes. Earl Hebner would be very proud of that ref bump, and he gets 5 cheap shots out of 5 from me. Anyway, Roman Reigns would eventually appear after this particular spot and spear Strowman after taking out The Fiend and having a couple of near falls. Roman Reigns would pick up the championship. We've got a new Universal Champion, having only had The Fiend as champion for a week. And Strowman gets speared, and he also takes The Fiend and proves that he is human, because he gives him a great big crotch shot with his boot, and it takes out The Fiend, and we have a new Universal Champion. I'm not opposed to Roman being the champion, and unfortunately that meant I've had to take a couple of points off this match. The first bit was really good. I've changed my score since originally watching the show. I only gave it 1 because of the finish, but I've now given it 3 because the first part was actually quite entertaining. Even the bit where Roman actually picks up the championship and the way that he does it, he's gone full heel. I like it. I really like it. But my biggest problem with this was the fact that The Fiend, it was a transitional champion. It's been building up. He wins the championship, loses it the next week, and we're back to square one. I do like Roman Reigns as heel though, so that's why it got a few extra points. And then obviously thinking back to the Attitude Era, the McMahon-Austin feud, there was a couple of times where Steve Austin only won the championship for about a week and got it back straight away. So maybe they're doing that. They also I've heard that The Fiend is being lined up to be the top babyface in the company. The man wears a scary mask. No. No. No, no, no. The Fiend should stay as The Fiend, as a tweener. He's doing evil deeds, but people like him should never be positioned as a full-on babyface, and I just can't get my head around why they're going to be doing that. But that is Payback, and it actually has been a very good pay-per-view. 1 week after SummerSlam, I thought it was going to be a lot worse than it was, and it wasn't. It was genuinely pretty damn good from start to finish, apart from the kickoff show, and it told some stories, it furthered some storylines, and we got a new Universal Champion and a new US Champion, actually. So there's a couple of Raw matches on there. Anyway, I say that was Payback. You are the Cheap Shot Nation. I've been your host, Luke, and we'll see you for more WWE pay-per-views in the very near future, both retro and modern pay-per-views. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.
Hiya.